do a lot more things. Yeah, we do.
About it, so I'm excited to learn too. And then we're gonna move on to let Ishara take over with her tour of her products and stuff. We are getting stuff on footage. Does anybody not want to be on camera? We love respecting boundaries. Groovy. All right, we rolling. Leah, we're gonna turn it over to you.
Anything like this before?
Well, then just do what feels natural.
I am an artist and art educator. I've been teaching in the public school system for 12 years. And I have always been a practicing artist during that time. My main goal is just to make art that is sustainable and mindful of my carbon footprint and reusing as much as I can. I think there's a lot of potential in discarded items, so anytime I can, I try to reuse, repurpose, and that sort of thing. So most of the things that are here are recycled in some way. I can go over just a few of them. So this is one of my recycled paper sketchbooks. All of this paper was in the garbage bin in my classroom. Don't worry, there was no like food or tissues around it, but if it's in the garbage, it's fair game. These photographs I take of bees, and the sleeves that they're held in are again from the garbage, the laminator at school. I'll take the discarded laminated remnants and I make my own sleeves for the photos. And then every photo on the back also has some Turkish Ebru marbled paper that I made at a workshop. So everything I make I try to recycle. Even these are the brown paper that comes in the Chewy boxes when we get our dog food delivered. So sorry, husband, it's pretty annoying for you. Nothing gets thrown away in our house. Trash day is light. Even the bookmarks, I teach high school art, and when we do the linoleum block printmaking, the scraps that are so small the kids want to throw it away, I take it out of the garbage and then it becomes mine. So same with the paper. So everything I try to reduce, reuse, recycle. I won't go through everything on the table. Pretty much the moral of the story is that I like to do it all. I think being an art teacher exposes me to a constant rotation of different materials in my classroom, which sort of then reflects in my own artistic practice, where I like to do a little bit of everything as well. In my artist statement, I say, don't try to put me in a box because I'll just use that box to make more art. So I have, embroidery, I have mixed media, I have gouache, I have watercolor with pen. I really do a little bit of everything. Some of the other recycled materials that I have are the Levin furniture fabric samples. I have just a small sampling here of what I've done with those over the years. My mother-in-law is a salesperson at Levin, and when they retire a fabric at the furniture store, they all get thrown away. So she wanted to find a way to repurpose those fabric samples. So I make things like aprons out of them that have pockets. Pockets are important. I also have these utensil rolls for when you're eating in a lunchroom that come with all the utensils you would need for a meal. Just things like that. I have some ceramic pieces as well. Just a little bit of everything. So I'm really happy to be here at the Cooper Siegel Library. I also do shows through the West Hills Art League, at Robin Hill Park and Moon, at Laurel Arts in Somerset. Some of the other places I've been are the North Hills Art Center. I try to be involved as much as I can. But yeah, I think that's about it. If you're interested in seeing some of the things that I do, you can follow me on social media at leahshuck.maker. I like to consider myself a maker more specifically than an artist because I don't just make art, I like to make functional stuff as well.
Any questions, anybody?
Is there a project?
Thank you.
Leah, when did you first get started with your art?
Oh, when I was like 5 years old. Yeah, I was so little doing art, but my parents were super supportive of it, and I had like markers and crayons and watercolor, same as like any other kid,
Is there a project that you kind of have in your back pocket that you want to create, but you haven't?
Is there yes. So right now I'm stalled because I'm pursuing my second master's degree because apparently I hate myself. But I'm working on a self-care series right now.
Wow.
So it's like the things that I do to practice self-care in my life. So I have one finished right now that's on display at the Pittsburgh Airport Area Chamber of Commerce building, and I have another one that's in the works in my studio in my basement, and then I have a third one planned that I haven't started. Because I think self-care is something that's really important, and I think people like glorify it. Like they think that self-care has to be like, I'm gonna go get a manicure, I'm gonna go get a massage, but that's not necessarily true. Self-care could be just like carving out 30 minutes in the morning with a cup of coffee and reading, or, you know, even if you can't do a full hour of yoga, do like 15 minutes, you know? So I think that we need to make self-care more like accessible to people. So that's a series that I'm working on. That's a great question. Thank you. Aaliyah, thank you.
One more question.
Yeah.
How do you keep your materials organized? How do you keep your materials organized?
So I'm a super organized person. I think being a teacher has a lot to do with that. But as far as keeping my materials organized, my whole basement is like my art studio. So I have a separate table for sewing, and I have a separate table for like drawing and painting. Like drawers, bins, things like that. My favorite place to get bins is Pittsburgh Center for Creative Reuse, because they're super cheap.
Yeah.
And obviously they're recycled, which is great. Or the Goodwill bins. The Goodwill bins are a little grody, but if you can see beyond that, the potential in the stuff there is amazing.
Hello, everybody. I will be sure to speak loudly, and I'm going to do it a little different because my artwork is spread across the entire library. So I'm going to start to my right and then work my way around. But I guess I should give you guys a little background on me. My name's Ishara Henry, if you don't already know me. I feel like most people do, but I am an artist. I'm a creative. I'm a youth mentor and facilitator. I sit on the board for Radiant Hall Studios here in Pittsburgh, which is an organization that provides studio spaces to artists across the city of Pittsburgh. They've housed over 300 artists, and they have approximately 100 studios across the city in 3 different locations. I'm also the media director for the BlackTeaBrownSuga Network, which is a multimedia production company based in McKees Rocks, PA, that also doubles as a community organization and focuses on the principles of music, media, and mental health, using music and media as the methods and tools that allow people to understand and explore their mental health. Mental health is a very dear topic to my heart, and when I take you around to see the artwork, you will notice that some of the artwork centers around mental health. That is part of why I started creating. It was a way to keep myself out of a dark place, is the best way that I can put it. Yeah, for those who know of me but don't know me, I have lost 3 out of the 4 members of my immediate family to their mental health issues. And so it's a very important thing that I think that more people should be aware of, that more people should talk about. I think that talking about your mental wellness should be the same as talking about your physical wellness, in the same way that you have a cold. And I think that is why we lose a lot of people to mental illnesses, is because they don't have a safe expression to be able to let people know the things that they're dealing with mentally. And it's also, and there also aren't a lot of resources that exist for those people. And so that is part of the work that I do as an artist, is to bring awareness to those things through the art that I create and sharing my own personal story, because I also have bipolar disorder as well as PTSD and anxiety. So between that and the losses that I've dealt with through my life, art has become a way art has kind of saved me in a way, and has become a method for me to build community and really understand how to continue to navigate through the world. So a lot of the art that you will see has been taken as a part of like my self-care. That is what I will say. It has been taken as a part of my self-care or created as a part of my self-care for different reasons, and I guess I can go into that as we go around. So this first wall that we're gonna walk along is mostly abstract photos of places that I've been. Yeah, it's mostly places that I've been or things that I've done that have helped me to, yeah, I think things that I've done that have helped me to cope. So I'm an avid gardener, I will say. I love plants, so this library speaks life to me with all of the, like, these are real, y'all. These are real plants in here. They're not like plastic. Like these are all real. That blows my mind when I first, and every time I come in here, because they're so well cared for to be in such a public space. But yeah, so this first wall is going to be mostly plants and places. As a part of the BlackTeaBrownSuga Network's efforts to encourage mental wellness, we went on a staff retreat in 2022 to Bermuda. And I took this photo of, I believe these are, my brain wants to say they're a type of vining plant that the name feels wrong to say out loud, but it's called a wandering Jew. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with plants, but that's a variety of vining plant, and that's what this is. Yeah, I just really enjoy like the color and vibrancy in this. And purple was also one of my mom's favorite colors. That is also where the creation of this came from. A lot of these canvases that you see, this is the first time that I've ever made work like this. And it's also the first time I've ever shown them. This is actually the waterfront in Wheeling, West Virginia. That's where a lot of my family lives. That's where I grew up, and the waterfront was always this place that I could go that was kind of peaceful and helped me kind of recenter when I would be dealing with a lot of things. And yeah, it just always had this really beautiful sunset sky that I feel like I never would photograph until I think probably this picture. Yeah, it gives a sense of like calmness that I think in all the chaos in my life, this place helped me find. And the interesting thing about these is that all of these plants, I probably have like 10 of these by now, but they all grew from one plant that a friend of mine gave me. And Esquire really enjoys the story behind this because the only reason that it became multiple plants is because my youngest son, he was upset one day that I wasn't giving him my full attention. And so that one plant, he plucked all of the leaves off of and popped the top off. But luckily, the way that these types of plants work is that the leaves grow into new plants. And I feel like, honestly, caring for these plants has kind of taught me that sometimes you're gonna get more than you expect. And sometimes bad things can be for the best, because I think that I wasn't anticipating enjoying growing these plants in this way, and I also never anticipated having so many of them, but I love them and I think they're gorgeous, and they've helped me learn a lot about myself. This was actually a project that I did with a friend of mine, Lando. Yeah, he's a really talented performing artist. And I really appreciate this project because he gave me a lot of creative freedom, which I don't think I get to have working with people a lot. A lot of the time, a lot of his music centers around finding his voice and not being heard, and kind of being marginalized in a way. So yeah, that's what this picture spoke to me. I was like, let me see how you look through the leaves and if that'll communicate it. And it's just been one of my favorite photos. The two on the sides, like I said, I've grown to love gardening, and that's what this was. This was me out tending to my plants, and in order to kind of hone my skills, because I'm self-taught. So like I didn't go to school for photography or any of the things that I do, like I've just kind of done them. And I like to try to push my skills to see if I can capture things the way that they look to me. I feel like last year I started trying to paint. Somebody was like, you should try it. You might like it. And I was like, I'm not good at it. I can't make shapes very well. Yeah, but I was like, you know what? I need something creative to do since I've started like doing what was my creative outlet as my work. I needed something creative to do that was like just for me. And that's where like the paintings and things came from. Purple was my mom's favorite color. And when I started looking into it, because I do some graphic design too, and I wanted to understand like the color theory behind it, like what do people pick up when they look at these colors? Like what is the message that's sent from these colors? And when I looked up purple, it was a sign of royalty. It was supposed to represent like regalness. And I was like, that kind of tracks for my mom. But this one I feel like I worked on a really long time unintentionally. Like I would do things to it and then I would look at it and I'd be like, it doesn't feel finished. I'm gonna be honest, this one was an experiment. I wasn't sure how it was gonna turn out because these are, so I hand dyed these fabrics prior to putting them on these canvases like this and placing the embellishments. I tried to do my best to have the colors burst from the middle of the butterflies. And I also chose the butterflies because they're supposed to have this representation of like rebirth. And I feel like I'm in a place in my life where that's kind of what's been happening to me. I think I've gotten more comfortable and kind of embraced who I am and stopped really trying to seek outward validation from people. And that's kind of what these were, is just like a physical exercise of that, really. The shadow box on the wall, this was my first time trying this. I just kept seeing this in my head, and I was like, I think it makes sense. And most people probably won't understand this when they look at it. But this shadow box is really representative of a transitional point in my life. In 2019, so I'm not from here. I'm from Ohio, technically. And I lived in Dayton for a period of my life, Dayton, Ohio. And if you don't know anything about Dayton, Ohio, it's pretty much a manufacturing town, but they call it the Gem City. I don't have real background as to why they call it that. But at that point in time, I have 2 children. I was transitioning to being a single mom and living on my own for the first time as an adult, as well as a mom. In that time period, I also, my grandmother passed away, and I was also in the middle of a shooting outside of my house. And as distressing as I just made that sound, because I know that didn't sound like a positive experience, I understand that. But it really helped me to understand what it meant to like stand on my own and be able to like do things for myself. Because it put me in a position where like I didn't have other people to speak for me. It was like if something needed done, then I needed to do it, and it gave me that practice. I'm sure there were probably healthier ways to get it, but it did get me to that place. And yeah, I'm really grateful to Dayton for the person that it helped me become, because there was a lot of things that I encountered there that really helped me to understand how to be the person that I want to be. Is like travel photos. Yeah, so I think Plain City is what I want to say. You got some? Yeah. Oh, there's 2 photos here, too. One behind you. Oh, yeah. No, I think somebody moved the tag on it or something. It's shifted a couple times since I've been here.
Yeah, it was sitting right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the tag's been gone for a while.
This is so beautiful.
What? Yeah, but that used to be a mural downtown Pittsburgh at Point State Park. But parts of it got vandalized. So that is actually not there anymore. It's completely different. The city had the artist who originally did that come back in and redo the entire thing with a team of like spray paint artists. So yeah, that actually isn't there anymore. And that was just me experimenting with light painting. Oh, sorry. This one. Oh yeah, this was when we took that staff retreat to Bermuda. This is actually Hamilton, Bermuda, so the capital. Both of these are actually from there. That one is in Ohio, place called Plain City. It's on the way from here to Dayton, and actually that's the first time I ever stopped there. Yeah, this was the first time I ever stopped there, but it was such a flat, like, I think I'm not used to flat still. So a lot of times when I find areas that have this like flat kind of these lines and then the clouds were really like, yes, like they make you want to like very puffy clouds. Yeah. Mhm. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, please take a look around. I love this. Bye, Esquire.
I know, when I seen that, I was like, vinyl, really?
I love it. I sat here, the first time I ever came in here and I saw that, I sat here and listened to Rihanna. Yeah, there's a Rihanna record over there. Wow, the pieces in this room are actually really interesting. Now that I'm in here and like having to talk about them. Yeah, so I guess I'll start with this one since I'm by it. This has always been one of my favorite pictures. Yeah, just represented this togetherness. So then there was a showcase that I wanted to submit for in February called Envisioning a Just Pittsburgh, that was supposed to highlight artwork that centered around what you think a just Pittsburgh would look like. So that is where the embellishments come from. So my friend Sarah Eve actually gave me this wooden frame, and I thought it just kind of elevated this piece, but I added the ficus sleeves because they also represent togetherness. And not being from Pittsburgh, I can see that there's like this segmentedness to it. Like, even though Pittsburgh is a city, it's like there are very small cities within that city, and people get very stuck on the fact that they exist in this small part of the city, to where like a lot of the communities here do a lot of the same work. They have a lot of the same missions, but they only do them in their small community. And it's like, I get that, because of course you want to represent your community, but it's like you have all these people doing the same work separately, when if they were doing this work together, it would be more impactful. So this was actually so that is how this one came to be how it is now, because I think I have a thing with things that I make where they go through transformations. Like if they don't feel finished to me, then I'll keep adding to them. And that's what happened with this one. And so this one was an honorable mention in that showcase. And so for the month of February, it was on display in the Carnegie Museum of Natural History, as well as the University of Pittsburgh Hillman Library, and then there was one other place they moved it. I think it was like the main Carnegie Library as well. What's interesting about the ones in this room is this is my very first, and that's probably the most recent. So it's like, it's almost like a start to finish kind of a really beautiful day, and I feel like I'm also trying to get in a practice where I'm not just leaving my photos digital. That is also a thing. I think that, especially with the way social media has been crashing lately, I'm less inclined to leave my things digital just because it seems like that's also not like a guaranteed safe way to continue for your things to live. So that's what that was. And also just Point State Park has kind of been, in a way, my replacement for the waterfront in Wheeling, if that makes sense. I think water is really calming for me, and it just helps me to kind of ground myself and recenter. And so I think every place that I've lived, every place that I've lived, I've always gone to the waterfront for like calming or like to clear my head or to kind of figure things out. Because even this first one, that is the riverfront in Dayton, Ohio. It's called the Riverscape. And I know you can't see the water from here, but if you were standing where this photo was taken and you look to the left, the Ohio River would be directly on your left. Photography has been something that I've loved my entire life, and I've always found a way. I never had to own a camera in order to be able to participate in it. This was the one that I made to say, can I really be a photographer? Yeah, this was like one of my first test photos when I was like, I know I can't keep working for people and I have to find something different because what I'm doing is not working for me. It's deteriorating my mental health and I have to find another way to live my life. And so this one was really that start. I posted this with another group of photos on my Facebook page, like, hey, just kind of to reach out to people to get some feedback, like, hey, if I were to start making like wall art, what do you guys, would this be something that you would be interested in supporting, or would these be things that you would want as art in your home or your space or whatever? And I remember when I posted that group of pictures, my cousin called me almost immediately and she was like, take those down. And at first I didn't understand, like, what do you mean take those down? And she was like, honestly, when you first started talking about this whole photography thing, I was kind of skeptical. Didn't think you were that good, if I'm gonna be honest. Never, but she hadn't seen any of my photos. She was like, didn't think you were gonna be that good, to be honest. She was like, but when I saw your photos, they're amazing. Take them down. You need to put watermarks on your images because people will steal them from social media. And I was like, that's valid. And so I did. But at that point, I didn't know anything about how to do that. And like I said, I'm completely self-taught. So I had to figure out, before I could even start to share things, I had to figure out what that meant and how to do it. And that's kind of been my journey, just in general, is figuring out how to do the things that I need to do in order to be able to do what I want to do. Yeah, and that's really where that started. That's been with me since, I want to say 2018. This one, like I said, I was going to say this one for last because this is a really, really, really personal piece for me. I call this one the manifestation. And like I mentioned earlier, mental health is a very personal passion of mine, and this piece represents big pieces of that, only because when I moved here in 2021, it was 2 months after my younger sister passed away, and during that time, I was just trying to kind of stay out of the dark. And it was the first time I was also allowing my kids to be with their dad for an extended period of time. So it was the first time in my life that I was only responsible for myself as far as like my daily care. So I'm trying to figure out where to start. But okay, I know where to start. So at the beginning of 2022, I was doing experimentations with light, experiments with shadow and color. And so the 3 that are self-portraits, that is where those came from. These were an experiment with light. So these were actually taken in my bedroom by me, and I bought these little LED lights that I was curious, like, how does light hit and where shadows come from? But also, like I said, I've lost 3 of the 4 immediate members of my family, and in 2021 is when my mother and my sister passed away. So this was also kind of me processing that. I wanted to really be able to see what I looked like while I was feeling all of these emotions and processing this loss. And so this was really representative of that, only because there were times that, like, I felt okay. Like, I'm not happy, but I'm kind of okay, and I know there's something better coming for me. And I feel like this middle one, Into the Light, that's where that came from. But it's also like, there are a lot of things that I don't understand, that I'm angry about, that, like, I would love to, like, rage about, to be honest. Like, this is not fair. And I think that's where the Out of the Dark came from. And then because I went through most of the colors that were available, and they also, when I went back through, there was so many different emotions that I could see in each photo. And I felt like that was really bipolar. And that's where this one came from. It's a representation of, like, all of those emotions that I think that I experience and go through. And so this series, there is one more that's a part of this series. It's blue, but it's not here. And this was actually a part of a competition based out of Australia called Out from the Mist. It's based on mental health awareness. And so this was awarded an Affinity Award. And if I'm not mistaken, that was for this year in 2023. So the tour starts in 2023, goes through 2024. So if I'm not mistaken, these are currently on tour in Australia. This is Aaliyah. Aaliyah is a really amazing, talented artist. She is a singer-songwriter, poet, and she also runs a cafe and lounge space based out of McKees Rocks called the BlackTeaBrownSuga Cafe. And this was early in our relationship, like when we first met. And if I remember correctly, I was still building my portfolio. And Aaliyah was interested in modeling or trying to get more comfortable in front of the camera. So we took these at the studio. And this picture originally is actually in blue light. And if you look closely, you may not be able to see it from far away. She is actually in this image 3 times. The heart is her hands. Yeah, so and there was a lot of love. This was always one of my favorite images. This image has been on display at the mayor's office in downtown Pittsburgh. It's been a part of the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust gallery crawl as well. And yeah, I really loved the vibe of this photo, so that's where that came from. And he keeps popping up, and I'm not mad about it because it's one of my favorite pictures. But Lando is down here at the bottom, and this is image from that same shoot that we did. And I think they call these like doppelgangers, where it's like you in the photo multiple times. Oh, this is actually, so there's a Pittsburgh artist, his name is Benji. He's a member of a band called Spillage Village. And his album, Smile, You're Alive, I think it was like I'm pretty sure it was an album release performance that he did for this. And that's where I took this. So also a really central part of like the images that I create is representation. You're not going to see a lot of my photos anywhere ever really that has people throwing up gang signs or fighting or any kind of negative representations around Black people, because I already understand that the media bombards us with negative images of Black people. And I feel like that kind of contributes to a lot of the violence that happens within our community and against our community. So for me, I'm always looking for different positive representations and also diverse representations of what Blackness looks like to kind of help people understand that we are not just one way. That we're not just one way. Growing up in a predominantly white area, I spent a lot of my life feeling like the way I showed up was not good enough. And I had a lot of people on a daily basis remind me of that, whether it was like the clothes that I wore or the way that I had to wear my hair or the way my skin was or the color of my skin. And I feel like it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary, and it creates environments, breeding grounds for violence. And so a part of what I strive to do is to put out images that give positive light to what Blackness looks like and the diversity that Blackness is, because we are not a monolith. We don't look one way. It is not non-Black to speak a certain way, to dress a certain way, to like a certain kind of music. And so that's also where like the images of people come into play too, because I'm never gonna paint us in a non-positive way.
Came out for Leah and Shar. This was awesome. I'm just so happy that you guys were open and vulnerable just to share with us how you all got started. And you too, Shar, just explain your life story across and just giving me the opportunity to allow you to display it. You know, I think that is big. Me as the volunteer art curator here, I just appreciate both of these artists. It kind of is inspiration for me, starting my poetry. I've only been doing poetry for about 2 years now, and I really just love how people create. Like, I think me as a former athlete, like, that was therapy for me, basketball. And when you get old and retire, you kind of like have to find different outlets. So for this is my outlet.